going. Okay, there we go. I think we're live.
Yep. Yay, okay. We're live. We made it.
Man, yeah, the internet, technical difficulties, people problems, you know. I don't know if this is a crisis or not, but if it is, we're turning it into an opportunity.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Everybody, can we hear everybody? Say hi.
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
All right, good.
Okay, guys, so if you're out there live and you're just kind of watching us all get organized here in the background, we had to restart this thing a couple of different times, and yeah, so it wasn't functioning right, so we decided just to go live and figure it out as we go. So, Catherine, I'm going to let you begin and take introductions, and I'm going to run and go to the potty really quick. I'll be right back.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Sorry we're getting started a few minutes late, but technicalities, so you just have to go with it. Early Saturday mornings are usually not our best critical thinking time, or at least not mine. So sometimes it takes us a while, but we get there. So my name is Catherine Clement. I'm here in Boulder, Colorado, and I want to welcome you to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. It's very easy to find us now if you go to www.saturdaymorningmastermind.com, and you'll be able to pick up we have a Google community, and we have a pre-mastermind discussion going on about the lesson. What we do is we're reading from the book The New PSYCHO CYBERNETICS by Maxwell Maltz, and then we have a pre-discussion in our Google Hangout through the week when we can get over there and get it in there, and then we come on here on Saturday mornings and we discuss the insights that we got from the book, and mastermind together and try to figure some of this stuff out. So the first thing I'd like to do is have everybody introduce themselves. Let's start with the ladies first. Come on, Vicki, come on out and get started.
I was trying to find my unmute little button. It's kind of like, oh wow. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Vicki DeVore, and I am coming at you from Houston, Texas. And I am really looking forward to this discussion today because I think this is one for me. So, but anyway, welcome everybody, and we're so glad to have you.
I'm a lady, right? Okay, so I'll go next. This is Sandy Root here from my new place in Miami Beach, Florida. Excited to be here today, and I look forward to the conversation.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dan Smith. I come from Boise, Idaho, and just excited to be here, and I want to welcome you today to the call.
Yeah, hey everybody, this is Jason Roberts down here in St. Petersburg, Florida, and me too. I'm really excited to be here with you guys and to discuss this great book. This is a particularly good chapter. Looking forward to it. So, good morning. Let's rock and roll.
I can't believe you're in St. Pete. I'm from Clearwater originally, so I used to work on St. Pete Beach. So you're down in my stomping grounds.
How cool. Small world.
Yeah. I think everybody's introduced themselves, and we're back to you now, Samantha. Are you back?
I am. It took me a second to get to the unmute button there. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. I know my internet's running just a little bit slower than usual. My computer's acting a little wonky, so if at any point you start not being able to hear me very well, then just somebody jump in and say, we can't hear you, and just take over, okay? But let's see. Wait, I just dropped something. Oh. Okay, for those of you who are brand new here to our Saturday Morning Mastermind, I'm Samantha Studebaker-Carl. I'm the founder of the Mindset Mastery Collective, and we started this Saturday morning mastermind a little over, well, I gosh, it's been about a year and a half ago, with the intention of studying personal development and increasing our inner work and just working on bettering ourselves. And of course we wanted to bring that to the public and allow everybody to get involved with it and work on themselves and become a better version of you, and then we all do that by working together, by masterminding together on this Saturday morning mastermind. And so if you if you're hanging out there watching us live, go ahead and post a comment on our page and let us know who you are, where you are in the world, and if you've been here before. I'm going to real quick grab the YouTube link here, so in case people are mobile, they can also watch it. So I'm going to take just a second and post that on our page. Hold on a second here. Okay. Yeah, mobile. If I can spell, that would be beneficial, right? Okay, so anyway, we are in, right now we're studying the book, The New PSYCHO CYBERNETICS, and we've been working on this for a while now. If you don't have a copy of this book, just message one of us over in our Google Plus community, which is mindsetmasterycollective.com, and we'll get you the PDF version so that you can follow along and add to our discussion. But right now, we actually are in chapter 13. Chapter 13 is called How to Turn a Crisis into a Creative Opportunity. And, Maxwell Maltz talks a lot about how if you are faced with an unusual situation and you haven't kind of prepared yourself ahead of time, that much of the time, many people tend to not react in a productive way. They, and that can be in a just a tense situation. Say, like he talked a lot about football players and how sometimes a football player will be able to catch all of the passes during practice, and then all of a sudden when it comes to the big game and something's really important, it's like the final score that somebody will throw them the football and then they'll fumble it. They'll drop it. They won't be able to catch it, and it happens a lot of times with sports professionals where if they crack under pressure. You've kind of heard of that. And then the same thing with people in many different situations where maybe you have a crisis in your life, like a fire in your house, or you get in a car accident, or somebody in your family gets injured in some way, and because you haven't prepared yourself in some fashion for just in case kind of scenario, that a lot of people, they get upset, they freak out, they don't know what to do, and that can happen to any one of us. So this chapter, it talks about how to deal with these situations and how to kind of pre-prepare yourself in the event that something bad happens, or also how to prepare yourself so that you can meet the pressure of a tense situation. Say if you're a salesperson or a public speaker, or performing in sports, or pretty much any number of different things. So I kind of wanted to start this conversation out with asking each person on the panel if you've had an experience in your life. I think that we've all experienced something to some extent where we were in some sort of a crisis situation, and one of the things that it talks about also is how some people naturally react better in a crisis situation than other people. But I just want to get kind of an idea across the board of what's everybody's experience been with that. Do you feel like if you've had a crisis situation, did you feel like you reacted naturally without being prepared, or was it the other way around? If you had a situation and did you not react appropriately? I don't know. Who wants to start this off? I know, Catherine, you were kind of talking about it in the pre-mastermind discussion about how, of course, being a nurse, and then also when you had a fire in your your house, and but that you kind of pre-prepared for that. Do you want to start our conversation?
Sure, I can start. Of course, I was an RN, gosh, by the time I was 22, I guess. So I had to learn how to handle situations where things were going horribly wrong, and I had to maintain my composure and learn how to work in that sort of a situation. And the point that I brought up in the pre-discussion was just a simple, I didn't want to go into all those codes and stuff because that can be depressing, but talking about practicing things, you know, as a child, I think I was about 8 years old, I was at a theater watching a movie and it caught on fire. So if you can just picture being in a theater, I was by myself. We were allowed to ride our bicycles 10 miles and go to the theater back when I was a kid. So, you know, but the curtains caught on fire. If you can imagine being in the middle of a theater and the curtains going up on the sides, all those curtains on the side. I mean, it was pretty scary. And so I always know when I go into a building, I always know, like, where's the fire extinguisher? Where's the exit? Where's everything? And I know how to get people out because being a nurse so young, I had to evacuate people from things like that. So I always have this plan in my head. And when my kids were young, I was in nursing school, and I always practiced I would set off the smoke alarm and then practice getting them out of the house, you know, so that everybody knew how to get out safely and where to meet each other outside in case we got separated and all that kind of stuff. So one night, well, it was sort of a crisis situation. My family was starving, and that's what caused me to go to nursing school to begin with. So one night, I'm up in the middle of the night, somewhere between 2 and 3 a.m., and writing an English paper, I want to say, and all of a sudden I heard this zzz. I mean, it was that quick. It probably wasn't even 2 seconds. It was just zzz. But I immediately recognized that as the smoke detector, and I was like, whoa, that's the smoke alarm, you know, and I got up and I ran, and sure enough, the whole hallway was on fire. And my husband and my children were on the other end of that hall, so I was able to get people out. Everything, you know, worked good. But talk about being blessed. For one thing, having practice, for, you know, when I look back and I think, if that situation hadn't happened in that theater long, long ago, would I have had all those habits that led to me being awake on that night to hear that 1 second alarm and recognize it for what it is? So everything is good. That's all I'm going to say. We might not think it's good at the time, but it's all good because it leads up to something later on down the road. All right, who's next?
Well, I'll kind of continue that thread because, like you, Catherine, you know, I was worked as an RN for 32 years in surgery, and you know, every year we would always get upset because we would have to have the malignant hypothermia drill. We'd have to have code drills. We'd have to have fire drills, you know, and it does get to be a little mundane. And like I say, I've had many challenges of, you know, crisis situations. I mean, you're working, and then all of a sudden a car wreck or something comes in, and so you have to step into that mode. And you know, one particular case that happened, I guess last year, yeah, like in June of last year, is, you know, you can handle it a lot of times. You step into the mode and you do what you need to do and you isolate yourself off. But when the code happens to end up being on a coworker, you know, you still step into that mode, and you are thankful that you had that training, but it still involves a little bit more because of the fact there you are, you're working on someone that you work with all the time. But then it's still the same thing. Then the reflective back part on that is thank God we had those mundane trainings, because while you still do not always handle everything perfectly, say in a code or in a fire, at least we had that training. And so that, you know, and everyone, and it's amazing to see what happens is because everyone pulls into as the team. Maybe one person forgets to do one thing, but then there comes the other team member who pulls up the extra side. So, you know, yeah, you know, it can always turn into some learning experiences, turn into an opportunity to say, okay, go back, review over what happened, and like I say, I've had some situations with the smoke detector, you know, kind of going off. Most of the time for me, it's been the battery that needs to be changed. But it's still, it's like, okay, where's the fire extinguisher? What am I going to do? What, you know, and all those kind of things. So, yeah, there's usually that gift of the silver lining, or, you know, the gift of an opportunity in any crisis situation. Like I told everybody this morning, I honestly did not get the chapter read, and I didn't contribute in on the pre-discussion, and I wasn't going to come on this morning, and then I kind of heard in my spirit, this is the exact reason why I need to be on. And saw Samantha. Samantha had posted a quote about about the word crisis in Chinese is only 2 characters, which means either crisis can mean a crisis or can mean opportunity. And then I pull out a self-care card that I have, like, you know, a lot of us have things, and the self-care card I pulled out was opportunity. Now I had not read Samantha's post of the picture about, you know, the word crisis. I didn't even know what chapter 13 was about, but obviously I'm supposed to be here. So thanks for letting me ramble on about that. But yeah, I'm kindred spirits with you, Catherine, on the nursing part. So
that's the power of a mastermind, Vicki. You'll see. You know, that's when we come together weekly like this, we'll pick up on each other's thoughts and things going on beforehand, or you know, it's real interesting. Watch how that works.
It is interesting. So
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, speaking of fires and stuff, it reminded me of when I was in college. You know, I was away at dorms, and I had a candle lit in a room, and I left it not for long, but then I came back, and the fire trucks are there, and you know, this was a brand new building, and there was a lot of damage from the water system. You know, and it was just like, oh my goodness, you know, I'm like a 20-something-year-old not knowing much about the world, and like, to me in the moment it was a huge crisis, and you know, I had to deal with the repercussions of that at the time. But then looking back at it, you know, it did create a lot of opportunity for me. You know, I moved off campus and just had a different experience, I think, than I would have had in the dorm, and more real-world experience rather than being stuck in the dorm. But, you know, it just, all of this conversation is really making me look, you know, realize how my mindset has shifted. You know, I can't think of any recent crisis, but, you know, many crises, I guess, that happened throughout the day where we think maybe, oh, this is going wrong, but then when something appears to be going not the way I wanted, or, you know, a mini crisis, I'm finding that later on after it happened, something happened even better. It just turned into something else that, you know, the universe aligned in some strange way. So I always find that when something seems to be a crisis, that it's actually turning into something that I desired, or something that's even better that I could have never possibly imagined if the crisis, you know, didn't happen. So, you know, when something happens that maybe isn't what I want, that is maybe a crisis, I really just let it happen now without having that freak out, because I trust that there's a reason and that it's going in a direction that it's supposed to, and to just trust it and, you know, breathe through it if, you know, I'm having, you know, anxiety around it or stress around it.
Did we lose her, or did I freeze her?
So. No, she froze up for me too.
She's frozen.
Well, she'll come back when she
Yeah, she'll be back.
Yeah. Oh, but you know, that's that's good that she was talking about how, you know, crisis tends to turn into opportunity. And you know, last week, I think it was last week, I had talked about how, you know, as a pet groomer, I had a dog that had a heart attack. And of course, I had no training at all whatsoever on, you know, canine CPR, and so I didn't even recognize what was going on. And so it wasn't until after that whole situation that you know, I took it upon myself to go and learn, you know, canine CPR. And of course, once I started learning about it and you know, how that all works, I did kind of find out that I probably wouldn't have been able to do anything for that particular dog in that situation, but it prepared me for the future. And so that I had a better understanding of recognizing, you know, different, you know, illnesses in pets and what different things mean, because of course when I took that training, I learned more than just canine CPR. I learned first aid, and so it was definitely an opportunity. And of course I felt horrible that happened for, you know, the family, because of course anytime you lose a pet, it's just it's hard. And but the bright side was, of course, that it pushed me forward into, you know, learning that additional skill that was beneficial to me throughout my career. So I just wanted to jump in and say that. Is Sandy back? Did you come back?
Yeah, I'm on my phone now. I'm having laptop internet connection problems, but yeah, I don't know where I got cut off. I was done talking.
I'm not sure where you. Do you what?
I think, Sandy, you were talking about how just you're learning to kind of breathe and kind of go in with the flow, because that you know that that there's a lesson in it, or there's something probably even better on the other side if you just go ahead and just kind of surrender. That's kind of that's what I gathered as your train of thought.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's how I was ending pretty much. You know, that you know, just trusting, definitely, because anything that may appear like a crisis or something that in the past would have caused me anxiety or stress, now I, you know, am able more so probably in the past year, you know, with all the personal development work we're doing, and that I'm able to just go with the flow more, you know, just breathe through, not be so anxious and stressed out if something, quote unquote, a crisis or something that I think is going wrong, turning out, you know, looking at it later like, wow, if that didn't happen, this wouldn't have happened. So a lot of times trusting that quote crisis or whatever it is, because usually there's always an opportunity or something, a growth opportunity, or just something that I've been asking for. The universe is doing its twisty turny, you know, way to bring me there. So definitely in a place of trusting more, you know, whatever's coming my way. So yeah, that was the gist of it.
Yeah, I find it. Oh wait, Dan, did you want to jump out? Go ahead.
If you got something really important to say, jump on it.
No, I was just. I mean, everybody's just as important. No, I was just going to add another little story of my own, but you had tried to jump out before, so go ahead, jump.
Oh, no big thing. Well, anyways, I think that maturity plays a big part in a lot of this. You know, that as we age and mature, that we figure out that, you know, it's not the end of the world, that life goes on. And as I was, you know, I read the chapter last night. I didn't finish the whole thing because it was kind of late and I got sleepy. So, you know, I actually instructed my subconscious mind to work on that during the night while I was asleep. And woke up this morning, came in, finished up the chapter, and then you kind of sit there. You know, a lot of my life has really been, you know, the boundaries of my life, so to speak, have been mapped out by catastrophes or crisis, you know, and so choosing which one to write about, you know, was kind of a challenge in all honesty. But the one I actually chose to write about was when I started my painting business, and I was actually working for a guy, and it was a really down economy at that time. Interest rates were up around 21%, and new houses don't get built much when you got 21% interest rates. And I had a brand new son at home. You know, he's just a few months old, and guy I was working for was going to get out of the business. And so I faced a crisis that I didn't have any money. I mean, I was beyond broke, and I didn't have any equipment. But the crisis was either I had to go find a new job in a down economy, or here was an opportunity to take a builder over that he had been doing work for, and that I'd actually been doing most of the work, 90% of the work I'd done for the last year anyway, because the boss was never around. So I was just out there taking care of things. And so the crisis was that hey, you can take over this account and go into business for yourself, but I didn't have any money. And so, you know, how did I figure it out? I mean, I can't even tell you exactly how I figured it out now, but I came up with the money. I went and got some equipment, and the only thing that I knew how to do was work harder than anybody else. And so that's what I did, you know, just 12, 14, 15, 16-hour days sometimes, and I worked 6 days a week for years, working those kinds of hours. And so, you know, the crisis was that I was faced with one road. I had to go find a new job, and the other road was that I could come out actually better if I was willing to hoist up my pants and go, you know, start my own company, and that's what I chose to do. And I mean, maybe this is too much information, but I had diarrhea for an entire year, and the reason was because my stomach was tied up in such knots. I had so much turmoil, you know, in my physical body that my food didn't digest properly. But after a year, you know, I looked back over my shoulder and I said, hey, you know what? I'm still standing. I'm still here, you know, and you know, running a painting business never was what you could call easy, but it got easier, and that came with maturity. And you know, over time, you know, all of us, I think, are kind of saying the same thing, that gosh, you know, with age comes maturity, and with maturity, you recognize that a lot of the things that at first glance appear to be a crisis really aren't that bad, you know. And two different quotes. One is from Napoleon Hill, that in every adversity lies a seed of an equivalent or a greater benefit, and the biblical passage goes along with that we know that all things work together for good. So, you know, we have these crises comes into our lives, and things looks like it's going to be just awful, but you can mentally project down a road. You can go one path in your mind, you can go the other path in your mind, and choose a path, and then go on that path, and as often as not, or more often than not, you actually come out better. Had you not gone through the crisis, then you wouldn't have had that opportunity. So I'll turn it over to, I think Jason still has to address that. So I'll turn it over to you, Jason.
Okay, you're all right. Well, I really like this this chapter. I'm that's my roommate. This chapter just really addresses something that's given me a hard time my entire life, and it's that dealing with that crisis in the moment when, you know, emotions or, you know, hearts are running high, and you know, it's sometimes just recognizing that, you know, that you're in the crisis. You know, yeah, like what you said, you know, choosing to take a certain path, you know, knowing that you have that opportunity to take that path, you know, recognizing that, and, you know, that all comes with practice, and you know, that you only get that experience through practice, through preparation, and you know, that's, I have to admit, that's been one of my my shortcomings, is not being prepared enough. And a lot of these crises, I mean, how do you prepare for all the crises in our lives? It sometimes seems that's all life is going from one crisis to the next. So
Uh-oh, he froze up on me.
You know, while we're waiting for him to come back, you know, you know, that thought of managing your life by crisis management. You know, I came across a quote the other day that is talking about it's better to be prepared with, and I'm going to switch it because it was actually about opportunity, but just switch it and say it would be better to be prepared without a crisis than to have a crisis and not be prepared. And then there was also another quote that came out of Conversations with God. I know several of us are reading that also. And I think, especially when the things like either outside forces with life or whatever it is causes frustration and anxiety, the quote that was out of that was that frustration and anxiety come from not listening to your soul. That kind of got me, because I think there is so many times, I know in my own situation, when, you know, to kind of have the either an external crisis or an internal challenge or whatever it is, and start going down the rabbit hole, is that really, instead of focusing on the crisis part, to say, okay, to try to do what Sandy is doing, step back, breathe, and kind of sit there and go, okay, what is the opportunity in this? What is my soul trying to tell me? What is, you know, where can I benefit from this? Where can I grow from this? And like Dan said, you know, out of maturity, and I think after maturity comes wisdom. So, you know, and you don't have to be of an age to be mature. You can go through things and gain that maturity, and out of the maturity comes the wisdom, and from the wisdom, I think, is where we're able to help others going through something similar. So that's just kind of my little 2 cents on that. I was hoping Jason was back, but he looks like he's still frozen. Is that correct for everybody else?
He probably doesn't know he's gone yet. He's probably still talking to us, unfortunately.
Maybe I guess we can send him a chat message and let him know that he's frozen.
I was thinking we should probably exchange phone numbers so we can contact each other outside of the Hangout if we need to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Situation like that.
You know, it was interesting where he was kind of talking about how, you know, how do you prepare yourself for, you know, the multiple different crises that happen in your life, you know, and as we go further into this chapter, of course, Dr. Maltz talks about some different ways that you can, you know, prepare yourself, if you will, even if you aren't doing specific preparing for a specific crisis. I mean, a lot of times, like, you know, we're young in school, they prepare, you know, we do fire drills and tornado drills and all that kind of stuff, so, you know, you can be prepared for those kinds of disasters. But, you know, in other life disasters, when things, you know, don't go the way that you expect them to go, or you know, you're trying to, you know, accomplish something and something gets in your way, like when we're sitting here and we're trying to get this Google Hangout started and the technical difficulties are giving us such a hard time, you know, the thing that Dr. Maltz talks about doing is keeping your ultimate goal in mind, and that when you stay focused on the destination that you are working towards, then it makes those fork in the road decisions easier, because when you come to, you know, a fork in the road, which is basically what it was saying, you know, crisis is basically, you know, you can choose one or you can choose the other. One is going to lead you down one path, one's going to lead you down another path, and if you know ultimately where it is that you're trying to get to, that decision becomes easier. And so I thought that that was just a really powerful thing. And of course, if we can kind of think about that in our lives, you know, ultimately, you know, it's like, you know, with me here, I had kind of, this is not like a life-threatening crisis, but a crisis in my business a number of years ago. Is I had gone from working with, you know, work for someone else to being in my own business, and so I did that for about 4 years. Well, about the 4-year mark, I was starting to get to the point where I was actually, you know, increasing my my income so that I was going to be in a, you know, in a profit mode versus just breaking even, or, you know, or before that just, you know, slipping by. Well, right at that point in time, I had kind of given myself like a 5-year goal of, okay, once I get to 5 years, I'm going to get out. You know, I'm going to sell because I've been doing this for 17 years. I'm just going to go ahead and get out. Well, at the 4-year point, my landlord decided that they were going to increase my rent, my overhead, my you know, for the the place that I was leasing, and then there was going to be some additional like community fees and stuff like that. And it was basically going to boil down to I wasn't going to be in profit for that year, not unless I did something really drastic, and I had to make that choice. I was like, okay, am I going to keep going and just to get out of this in a year, when this whole next year I would not be in profit anyway, or am I gonna, stop what I'm doing right now and just, cut my losses and be done with it, because I'm thinking about retiring in a year anyway. And so, when I knew that I was gonna just be retiring in a year anyhow, for me, it wasn't worth it to keep going, So I made that decision. I was like, nah, screw it. I'm gonna retire. It's not worth it to me. And so that's kind of, that's what we're kind of talking about. Crises aren't always life-threatening crises, but they can be life-changing. And so when you kind of look at what are your ultimate goals, what is it that you want to accomplish, it makes life easier. And another thing that, for me, being in the home business industry, there's been numerous times where money has been really tight, and but I have this ultimate goal of what I want to accomplish with my business and in my life and what I want it to look like. And there's been times where I've been, God, it just doesn't seem like it's going the direction that I want it to go. And so you come to that choice. You say, okay, I can cut my losses, and go get a job and do that, or I can keep pushing forward and work towards this ultimate goal that I want. And you kind of weigh it and you go, okay, is this going and getting a job now going to get me to this goal out here? It's not. So I have to keep doing this, which is what I ultimately want to do anyway. But it just means that you've got to work that much harder in order to reach that goal. But either way, when you know what your goal is, that decision becomes easier. So that's just my thoughts on that. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll jump on that. I agree with you. That I've had a goal in my mind for years, and that goal is what's kept me going. Because I talked a little bit last week about circumstances. You have circumstances in your life on any given day. We all have circumstances. But the challenge is, do you allow the circumstances to dominate your life, or do you dominate the circumstances? And it's easy at any given day to throw in the towel and say, you know what, I quit, I'm done, I've had enough, And but if you have that goal, if you have an ultimate outcome in your mind that you always keep in your mind, that you're always moving towards, then when the circumstances come, you kind of like Superman, with his chest out and the big S on there and the bullets bouncing off your chest, that you don't allow the circumstances to dominate. You fight your way back, and you fight your way against the circumstances, and you keep ultimately that picture in your mind, that goal that you want to achieve. And we're constantly coming against these forks in the road. And I wrote a little bit about that in the pre-discussion, that back years and years ago, I really had some major life changes that I needed to make in my life. Drugs and alcohol ruled my life, and I was into drug, sex, and rock and roll type of a mode for a number of years, and coming to a point where mentally I can see a path in my mind. And I'm on that path, and I come to a branch or fork, and both of those forks kind of go off into nothing. So you can't really see what's just around the bend and just over that little hill. But you can mentally project down the road, and you go down one side on the left and say, well, if I continue on the path that I'm on, what are the possibilities? And the possibilities for me back then was the possibility of eventual jail time, prison time. I mean, who knows what, had I stayed on that path, where my life would have taken me. And then to mentally project down the other side and say, well, what are the possibilities there? And to set that goal of, the ultimate out. In other words, I guess when you die, and everybody comes to your funeral, and are they going to have good things to say about you, or are they going to have bad things to say, what a loser, that was a choice that I had to make, you know, and the direction that my life was going to move in, and the crises that came into my life personally that would prompt which decision, which road that I chose to go down. And so having an ultimate goal, an outcome in my life, a place that I want to be and end up, has been the determining factor of when circumstances come into my life. Yeah, you see the circumstances there. Yeah, you acknowledge it, but that circumstance doesn't have to dominate your entire life. You can overcome that circumstance. You can actually physically speak to a circumstance and tell it to get out of your way. And you know, keeping that goal, keeping that direction, always moving towards that goal no matter what, whether you're broke, whether you're, you got physical problems, no matter what. I'm not going to get off this path because I got an ultimate destination. I know where I'm going, and all this stuff is just incidental. I'll brush it aside, and I'm going to keep moving on down the highway here. And ultimately, I may not ultimately get to the point where I want to be, but I'll be further ahead than what I was when I started. So, Jason, to see you're back. Welcome. I'll turn it over to somebody else.
Yeah,
I think you're muted, Jason.
Yeah.
Really good stuff, Dan. Yeah, sorry, my browser must have the memory on it. I guess I have to change some settings, but boy, yeah. Like you said, Dan. I mean, we all have we can choose to look at things in a different way, and you know, just come at tackle the crisis, so to speak, at a different angle, and sometimes that can make all the difference in the world. I think before I got knocked off, I was just going to reiterate how the you know, overcoming that initial surprise of having a crisis or being in a crisis all of a sudden. The examples of shadow boxing, or of just going in and maybe of the baseball examples where he's you know, they're doing a dry run, so to speak, and just letting the ball go over the plate, you know, doing that in our minds. I mean, that's what he's getting at, and you know, I think I'm going to start doing this a lot, because I think there's a lot of little crises that we get into over and over, that we can actually train for, so to speak. So yeah, what I've read in this chapter I found very useful. So I'm looking forward to taking advantage of that. That's really all I have to say right now.
That's cool. Awesome, Jason. Thanks for sharing that. You know, and it's interesting in that, you know, all of us are, you know, in the home business industry, and one of the things that they suggest that you do when, you know, for people who maybe want to be a leader and who want to be able to speak on stage in front of people and that sort of thing. Of course, in this book is a little bit, it was written, you know, many years ago, and so back then they still talked about, you know, standing in front of the mirror, talking to yourself in front of the mirror. Or they say, you know, imagine your audience sitting there in their underwear, or, you know, doing those sorts of things. And of course, for the home business industry, we talk a lot about getting in front of the camera and preparing yourself by just talking to the camera. Get on video and start making those videos. And that's kind of the same thing as, you know, it's kind of talking to yourself in the mirror and preparing to talk to other people in person and that sort of thing. And of course, I know that, you know, for me, as far, you know, so much of my life, I've been very, very shy. And for me to get on video and make multiple videos, it's kind of helped me a lot, even in real, you know, in real life situations where, you know, if I'm talking to you on video and kind of doing these hangouts and stuff and having these conversations, that then when I get in life situations where I would typically have been not knowing what to say, it's easier for me to talk to people. And so, I mean, it seems silly, something just so minor for a person to have difficulty with, but for a lot of years I did, and just being able to do video, and instead of talking in front of a mirror, I talk in front of a camera, and that has helped me a lot. So anyway, that was my thoughts on that. Now I lost my train of thought. Does anybody else want to jump out real quick?
I had something like that happen to me. What was it? What's today? Saturday. So Thursday, I was asked to do a training for a group that I'm in, and it was a live training, and I had prepared a certain lesson that I was going to teach, and I had, things that I was going to speak directly to and examples. I mean, I was prepared, man. And I got on the call, and the guy that was introducing me said I was going to teach something completely different, like totally different from what I had prepared. And so I had like 2 seconds to totally switch my lesson around, but I pulled it off. But it's only because of making videos and, stepping out of my comfort zone. And it was stepping out of my comfort zone to get on camera. You probably wouldn't think it now, but it really was. It really was. And I just want to say that, and I mean, I've just learned this so many times, what we call crisis, it really is just another opportunity. It's just, that's all it is. And sometimes, and I'm not saying this for anybody else, I'm just speaking for myself here. I think, looking back, knowing my personality, that without the crises, without that pressure, that outside pressure to move me a little bit, I probably wouldn't have ever wound up anywhere in my life. I mean, I probably would have just been sitting around playing video games somewhere all the time, because that's what I like to do. So, but I have had all these crises, or all these, I just kind of think of it as God, and I'm not a religious person, so to speak, but, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, just sort of molding me, with these little things. And without that pressure, without those crises, I honestly can say I would not be where I'm at right now. I would not be where I'm at in my career. I would not be where I'm at in my mindset, in my, I do have physical issues that I deal with, and I refuse to let them get me down. Every day I'm finding new ways to conquer those things. I'm not going to give up. This week I found 2 amazing things that have helped me. One, to drive my car more comfortably, and one, to work on my computer more comfortably. So, and those were 9-year challenges that I got the answer to this week in the same day. So, we always get the answers we need, maybe not at the exact moment that we think we should, but they come. So just listen and ask questions. That's really important, to ask questions. What can I do today? What do I need to do today to get me to that goal that I'm trying to get to? What can I do in this moment? And if you can't think of anything in that moment, get into your self-talk, because your self-talk will bring you right back to your goal and get you right back on track. Somebody else come out here now.
Along the lines of what Samantha was talking about, as far as, in the book, him talking about the mirror talk versus where we are in today's society with the ability of, getting in front of the camera, is I'm that way too. I'm telling you, probably less than 4 months ago, I was terrified to get on the camera. I would, I'd be invited to hangouts, and I would cover up either turn off the camera or whatever it is. I would be there, but you would always just see my picture. And, what is really cool, I think, about stepping into that is, just like Nike, I just had to do it. And, you know, now I go back and I look at some of the first ones that I've done, and of course I still have a long ways to go, but I think that's the beauty of what we have with technology now, is that our mirror is a camera and we have a record of what we've been doing, versus just, like, say, looking in the mirror and then, you know, having nothing to look back on, to study from, or to see how, you know, how we're presenting ourselves, or, you know, or are we being too stiff? Are we not letting people really get to know who we are? You know, like, say, the mirror is it was just a flat. You're just getting mirrored back exactly what you were doing. But that's, you know, like, I'm kind of like you. It's kind of like, well, now that I've kind of started learning to do this, you know, I just get out there, and I used to think I had to do my videos perfect, and now most of the time if you see one, I say, look, I'm doing this in one take. You know, it is what it is. You know, so that, I think that, you know, the technology has really helped us to come along in those learning things. And like you said, Catherine, that sometimes maybe with the thing that, you know, that you were needing to help you drive your car, and the thing that you were needing to help you as far as working on the computer, also had to get into a state of allowing. You know, you have, maybe it's a situation where, okay, this is the way it is, and I'm going to be okay with this at this particular point in my life, and I'm going to just keep on. And then that allowing, you know, wow, both answers in one day. I mean, that's phenomenal. So, but yeah, so I'm loving working with the camera now, especially since I got an HD one, and it's a good tool. So I think it's something that everybody can learn from. So that's kind of mine. So I'll hop back out.
That's awesome, Vicki. You're absolutely right. I mean, oh, and I love the fact that you mentioned how we can look back on our previous progress, whereas before, you know, we couldn't do that because there was no technology to allow us to do that, or it would have been way too cumbersome. But now, I mean, you have a phone, you just pop it up and start doing video, and then, you know, and a lot of things that a lot of times what folks in the home business industry struggle with is that self-doubt. And you know, a lot of, and what's the other, it's kind of, you know, self-doubt and, you know, worry that we're not going to be successful, and frustration with ourselves for not accomplishing as much as what we should, or what we think we should, and things like that. And when you can look back and see how far you have come from where you were, then that boosts your self-confidence. It helps you to remove that self-doubt. It makes you realize that, you know, if you can make it this far, then by God, you can make it as far as someone else that you're seeing that is more successful than you. And, you know, and so that's such a powerful thing. And of course, this also kind of plays into one of the next things that in the book it talks about is what is the worst that can possibly happen, and to kind of think about those things when you're faced with a crisis. And of course, if you're nervous about getting on camera or getting in front of people or sharing your video or whatever, what is the worst that can happen is you fumble over your words, you lose your train of thought. We've all done that. You know, we do that in real life conversations. And so if you're on video, it's no different. If you know, like what Vicki was saying, she just does the video now. It's just one take. And I think a lot of times we all begin to realize that, you know, trying to redo and redo and redo is just a waste of time, you know, and just do it and be done with it, and then move on and do the next one. And if it didn't turn out great, oh well, it doesn't matter. You did something, you accomplished something, and then you move forward and you do better the next time. And then the fact that you can look back just makes it easier, because, you know, I feel like when you can see where you've come from, that can give you such a huge confidence boost. And then to project, and of course in this book he talks about using the theater of the mind and imagining what it is that you want to accomplish. And when you do that repetitively, that's just about the same as doing like that emergency preparedness kind of thing, is that you are preparing your mind for that success that you want. And so then you have a natural tendency to go in that direction when a crisis happens. And you know, and of course this section when it's talking about, you know, what is the worst that can possibly happen, and of course we're faced with these two decisions, this one or this one. This one leads us to staying on the same path, being in the same situation, or or maybe worse. And then this one leads you to success. And when you can sit here and go, okay, well, this one seems really scary, but yet I ultimately want to get out here. And if you think about the things that, okay, what is the very, very worst that can possibly happen, is that you come to realize that those situations are no worse than any of these crises that you've had previously in your entire life. Just like what, Catherine was saying, I mean, she's had all these things happen in her life, and we've all had many things happen in our lives, and they help prepare us for the future. And it's kind of a really huge example, just about, it was a little over a year ago, we made a huge decision, my husband and I, that we were going to just cut ties with our entire lives and go full-time RVing. And I was sitting there weighing the options, and I'm like, for all these years prior to this, we wanted to stream, we wanted to be free, we wanted to be able to travel and spend time with family that we haven't spent time with, and all of those different things, but we were allowing our fear to keep us from just doing it. We were allowing our fear of not having income, or our fear of not having a secure job, our fear of not having a physical home to come home to. We were allowing all of these fears to keep us going down the path of mediocrity that we really weren't happy with. And when we came to this decision last year, it was like all of a sudden it popped into my head, we've faced crises so much than what could possibly happen if we just decided to go and do it. We'd come through bankruptcy, we'd been through foreclosure, we'd been through credit hell, we'd had my husband had a motorcycle accident and he'd been off work, we'd had all these different things that had happened to us in our lives up until that point. And we didn't choose those. We didn't choose those as what we wanted to have happen, but we recovered from that. We were able to overcome those situations. And I thought to myself, my God, if we can overcome all of that crap, what in the hell makes me think we can't overcome doing something, going after our dreams? So I'm like, we're gonna do it, and so we did, and and it's been wonderful. And there have been little struggles here and there, but my goodness, they weren't anything like the struggles that we've been through previously. So that's my thought on that side of it. Oh my goodness, we're right at 11 o'clock.
That's a great point, Sam. That's a great point. When you look back at everything you've been through, I mean, seriously, some of the challenges we face nowadays seem so simple. Like, I look back and I think, oh my gosh, if I made it through that, I can make it through anything. And one thing I'll just say real quick, but we did get started a few minutes late. I would encourage everyone, look back at those parts of your life that you think were the most traumatic or the biggest crises, and get out a piece of paper. And I want you to really be honest with yourself and write down you start with the bad things, of course, because that's what's going to come up first, but write all the bad things about that. But then I want you to make a list, and I want you to see how you have benefited, what character traits it brought about in you. You write down all the good things that came about because of that crisis, and I think you're going to find that there's always a balance. There's always as many good as there are bad if we're honest with ourselves and willing to admit it. We just have to look. So thank you, everyone, for joining us this week, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great one.
Yeah, you too. You too. Great stuff, guys.
Does anybody have any final thoughts before we wrap up? Oh, go ahead, Jason. Sorry.
Well, I would just say, keep that in mind. Crisis is a decision. It doesn't have to necessarily be a negative thing. It can be an opportunity. I want to thank you guys again for letting me come out here on the panel, because it's really helping me step out of my comfort zone. We talked about doing videos, and it's been like pulling teeth, for me, and so this really helps me a lot. And and it brings to mind that the more we decide to step out into our comfort zone, which is a great thing, the more crises are probably going to show their rear their ugly head, so to speak. So we can, the whole preparation thing is going to help me out tremendously. And the more I read this book, the more I can recommend it to other people. So again, thanks for introducing me to it, and thanks for letting me come out here on the panel. Appreciate it.
I heard a story years ago that related to me in my mind, and I'm not going to be able to do the story justice, but it went into how the finest swords are made. And you take the steel and you heat the steel up, and then you hammer on it, and you actually flatten the steel out, and then you fold it over onto itself. So part of the time the steel is being heated, part of the time it's being beaten upon, part of the time it's thrust into a cold bath to cool it down real fast. And through this process of heating, hammering, cooling, reheating, hammering, folding it, cooling it, all this different process, it increases the strength of the steel. And so that's the way that they make the finest blades, is this heating process, hammering process, cooling process. And the analogy was made that as human beings, we go through the same thing. Part of the time we're in fire, part of the time we're being beaten, part of the time we're being folded over onto ourselves, and part of the time we're in a cooling process. But through this period of time, through all these different stages that we go through, that's what turns out a beautiful human being, turns out a beautiful product. So, the things that we go through in life, yeah, they're painful. Had we been given a choice to have gone through certain things, I know that all of us would have said, no, I'd just soon not go through that. But in the end, your life is like a tapestry, and from the back side of the tapestry, all you see is a series of knots and threads hanging, and just a jumbled looking mess. But if you turn the tapestry around and you look at the front side, then there's a beautiful picture. And really that's what we're striving for, is to have our lives to amount to a beautiful picture. But you can't judge the beautiful picture from the back side. You have to look at the front side of the picture. So ultimately, a life that's been lived, the hope is that it ends up being a beautiful life and a beautiful picture. So that's all I got.
All right, guys. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. First of all, Jason, we are happy to have you on the panel, and you're welcome to come back anytime. We'd be glad to have you on, and I'm glad that this hangout is helping you, and I think that it helps all of us, because we all get to hear each other's stories, and we get to hear each other's experiences, and we get to, read the book and interpret it for ourselves and share our insights with each other, and because of that, we're able to grow even more than what we would if we were just studying this book on our own. And that's why we do this hangout every week. That's why I have we created this the Google Plus community, so that we can all come together and and just help each other become the best version of ourselves. And so we're glad to have you, Jason. And Dan, thank you so much for that analogy of the sword, because that's perfect. That's a perfect wrap up for this whole conversation. So guys, I just want to say thank you to each one of you for coming and hanging out with us. And then I think Kay, she was on the page and made a comment about you truly need to know what your desire is, and you can't be wishy-washy, and that is so true, because if you know what you want, all those decisions are easier, and all those crises are easier to overcome. And so guys, I just want to say, thanks for coming and hanging out with us. And then, of course, we'll be back here again next Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern. You can find us at SaturdayMorningMastermind.com. And if you need a copy of the new Psycho Cybernetics, then hit one of us up in our Google Plus community, and you can find that at MindsetMasteryCollective.com. And at the end of this chapter has a little mental training exercise very similar to what Catherine was just talking about. I'll go ahead and post that in the community so you guys can do that. And then just keep your eyes out in the community for our pre-mastermind discussion. I'll have that posted no later than Monday night. And then we can get our conversation going for chapter 14, which will be how to get and keep that winning feeling. So with that, guys, have a great afternoon, and we'll see you next week on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.